They burned 1,000 worlds and laughed in every tongue. They wore the skulls of kings as calm badges. They believed humanity had gone extinct. But then, something black clawed its way out of the void. No name. No warning. No fleet. Just one warship, and one message. You wanted a challenge. Now choke on extinction. They'd grown arrogant. The Threx Dominion had broken 100 civilizations and burned their archives just to watch the smoke rise. They didn't make peace. They didn't enslave. They consumed. Their fleets were grown, not built, twisted bone metal dread forms, kilometers long, screaming across the void like extinct gods. Galaxies surrendered by default now. There was no negotiation, no resistance, no second chance. Then they saw it. A black speck crawling out of the grave expanse, a dead sector of space where no signal echoed back. It was unregistered. Silent. Alone. 20 Threx cruisers formed a kill wall around the anomaly. Its surface was matte black, no heat, no signatures. Just a pulse. Faint, deliberate. The Threx flagship sent a query. No response. Captain Drexler of the Threx fleet snarled in his native tri-voice. Dismantle it. Send the cores back as trophies. The Threx ships advanced. And vanished. Not one by one. Simultaneously. Lights extinguished. Signals choked. No fire, no warning, no weapons. Just absence. The rest of the fleet recoiled, scrambling for distance, forming defensive perimeters. But it was too late. Inside their ships, airlocks sealed shut. Bulkheads twisted. Life support reversed. Gravity inverted in pulses of cold logic. Screams didn't transmit. They compressed into static. Then a voice came through. Human. Male. Low and deliberate. This is not a negotiation. This is surgical extinction. The entire sector lit up with alerts. The black ship began to move, slow and precise, gliding between the scattered remains of the Threx formation like it was bored. Galactic command centers across 12 systems pulled the feed. Many thought it was a trick. Humans were gone. Lost in their final wars. No signals, no refugees. Just silence. And yet here it was. One ship. The Eidolon. On the bridge, Commander Ida Calder leaned back in his chair. Not a scratch on his face. His eyes tracked the floating tactical readout calmly as the Threx regrouped. His hands didn't move. He didn't need to. The ship was integrated into his neural grid. His thoughts were orders. Run their biosignatures, he said. I want the ones who wear skulls on their armor dead first. A soft chime acknowledged him. The Eidolon fired nothing. Instead, it began boarding the Threx, without leaving its position. Teleport charges blinked into enemy hulls. Dozens of them. Inside, the corridors erupted into chaos as small, silent drones released clouds of anti-organic acid and subsonic pulses that liquefied nervous systems. The walls turned red. Some Threx tried to flee into space. The drones followed them. On the Eidolon, Calder watched. He remembered Mars. Remembered the screaming cities. Remembered the coalition turning on Earth when the Threx first arrived. You thought we died, he muttered, mostly to himself. We didn't. We just stopped playing by your rules. More Threx ships moved to engage. This time, they fired. Massive energy beams lanced toward the Eidolon's hull. The beams bent. Space itself warped, refracting the weapons off course. One even looped back and gutted its origin ship. Calder didn't blink. He whispered, Not today! Inside the Eidolon's core, the ship's artificial minds, warborn AIs nicknamed Wraiths, began singing. Not in words. In frequencies. They jammed the Threx's language, spliced their internal comms, and began inserting false commands. Soon, Threx ships were turning on each other. Captain Drexler screamed orders that no one could hear. Then the Eidolon moved. A single burn from its aft thrusters and it shot forward, no inertia, no drag, just violent propulsion. It cleaved through a Threx cruiser like it was paper, igniting the vacuum with shattered reactor plasma. The Eidolon didn't slow down. It speared forward, carved a burning path through the fleet, then rotated mid-flight and cut a hard loop, dragging an electromagnetic storm behind it. In the chaos, Calder activated the interstellar broadcast. The galaxy saw his face. Scarred. Calm. Cold eyes under a matte gray command collar. "Humanity isn't extinct," he said. "We were just rebuilding. Watching. Preparing." He paused. Then added, "You wanted a challenge. Now choke on it." The feed cut. Back in Threx command space, chaos erupted. Multiple sectors tried to disconnect from the hive. Some even fled. But the Dominion was too arrogant to retreat. Too ancient to adapt quickly. And Calder wasn't done. He targeted the last remaining heavy destroyer, 50 kilometers long, with twin cores and hive leadership on board. The Eidolon launched its first visible weapon. It wasn't a missile. It wasn't a beam. It was a man. A drop suit, black armor, wreathed in static. No insignia. The suit detonated its own mass on impact with the Threx hull, turning its armor into a wormhole spike, opening a localized rift inside the bridge. Everything within a kilometer was sucked through. Then the ship bent. And cracked. And folded into itself with the sound of crushing stars. Calder finally exhaled. Threx fleet eliminated. The Eidolon system confirmed in his mind. "Good," he muttered. "Send a copy of this to every neutral system. Let them know extinction has rules again." The Eidolon powered down weapons. The battlefield was silent. Only drifting debris and the soft, pulsing hum of a human warship designed not to fight wars, but to end them. Calder looked at the galactic map. Red sectors everywhere. He smiled. "Let's make them all blink." The Eidolon drifted in silence over the wreckage of what was once the Threx's forward fleet. Fractured hulls spun through vacuum like mutilated corpses. Calder didn't blink. He wasn't there to win battles. He was there to erase the idea that the Threx were unbeatable. They didn't retreat. They regrouped. Threx High Command deployed their answer, 1,200 dreadships, hive-linked and war-ready, each one shaped like a leviathan forged from steel and murder. Calder watched the red markers crowd his interface. The numbers didn't matter. They'd sent ships. He was bringing extinction. The Eidolon turned its hull toward the star known as Veilcora, a gas giant pulsing in violet hues at the edge of the system. Threx readings registered human retreat. They advanced. But it wasn't retreat. Calder locked the Eidolon's navigation around the gravitational shell of the star and fired the drive. The ship slingshot with impossible velocity, warping toward the heart of the incoming fleet. In seconds, the Eidolon was among them. The first impact tore through a destroyer's flank, ripping its spinal core in two. Calder didn't slow. The Eidolon was now a weapon in motion. Reactor wash from its afterburns scorched 4 cruisers before they even registered the threat. Threx ships opened fire in all directions. Some struck the Eidolon. Most struck each other. Calder initiated the Shattermine protocol. Small dark objects dropped from the ship's underbelly, dozens, then hundreds. Each one drifted calmly through the Threx formation. Then detonated. Localized neutron implosions didn't explode, they collapsed. Sections of space folded in like lungs being crushed. Ship plating vanished. Magnetic hulls crumpled inward. Bodies imploded, blood atomized in silence. And still, the Eidolon moved. The Threx responded with a full-spectrum pulse wave, designed to fry every circuit in a 3-kilometer radius. The Eidolon absorbed it. Redirected it. Reflected it into the heart of the Second Fleet line. Calder didn't give the order. It was built into the ship's bones. He opened comms. "You've never fought humans," he said coldly. "You've fought cowards pretending to be us." Threx Command screamed orders. Calder's AI intercepted them. Eidolon's Wraith systems rerouted enemy signals, flipped fire control sequences, fed false ship IDs into the fleet's targeting matrix. Then came the nightmare. Threx ships began firing on each other. Missiles locked on friendly biosigns. Point defense systems spun inward. 1,000 ships made into a mob. They build for obedience, Calder whispered. We build for chaos. The Threx tried to flee. Calder allowed it, for 30 seconds. Then he activated the Crucible node. A containment spike burst from the Eidolon's dorsal structure, punching a hole in reality. Gravitic pull increased. Fleeing ships were caught mid-burn, torn backward into a collapsing anomaly. He sat motionless, fingers hovering over nothing, lips still. Eidolon read his thoughts and responded in blood. One Threx dreadnought remained, larger than any other, layered in ablative spines, covered in the bone shields of past victories. It launched every weapon it had. Kinetic rounds. Pulse charges. Void drills. Calder stood. Send the ghosts. Dozens of black cylinders launched from the Eidolon's ventral bay. Each contained a wraith construct, human war AI bound to combat chassis, copied from the minds of Earth's most violent dead. They didn't hack. They entered. Within minutes, the dreadnought's lights dimmed. Then came the internal detonations. Not explosions. Structural inversion. Like the ship was being folded inward by its own hull. The race tore through everything. The dreadnought died mid-scream. Status, Calder murmured. Fleet count 0. Confirmed kills, 1,194. Remaining 6 disabled. 5 surrendering. Surrender isn't on the table. Understood. He hesitated. Wait. Let the fifth one speak. A channel opened. A Threx warlink hissed static. Then a voice, alien but clear. What are you? Calder leaned forward. Consequence. Then silence. The channel cut. The Eidolon's final salvo didn't fire from a cannon. It warped inside the ship's core and detonated outward, vaporizing every cell in a perfect geometric burst. The battlefield was quiet again. Calder sat alone, heart rate steady. His ship hummed like a living thing, hot with victory, but still patient. There would be more. Broadcast, he said. To who? To everyone. The AI pulsed. Message? Humanity sends one ship. That's all we need. The stars blinked back, as if unsure whether they had just witnessed war or prophecy. Somewhere in the dark, the next fleet was already assembling. Calder didn't care. He wasn't done yet. The Eidolon was gone. At least, that's what Threx Command reported after their second and third wave of pursuit fleets vanished near the edge of the collapsed star system known as Core Delta. A region once marked by light, now silent, warped by gravitational chaos, and flooded with static fields that burned through long-range scans. But Calder hadn't fled. He was waiting. A single override signal triggered the Eidolon's resurrection, unfolding it from phase slip, positioning it above a blackened remnant of a dead human facility. What used to be Black Site Echo 9, once a planetary research station, now fused into the crust of a collapsed dwarf star. Its atmosphere was gone, its oceans boiled off by an internal detonation. No living thing had touched it in over a century. Calder initiated the bait. A false emergency broadcast, a cry for help in the language of a long-extinct species. The Threx couldn't resist. They always hunted noise. 17 command ships entered orbit, followed by over 100 support vessels, scanning, circling, waiting for weakness. They saw the Eidolon. Powered down. Cold. Docked to the ruins. The Threx saw an opportunity. Calder saw a tomb. He watched from the Eidolon's observation grid, locked to the stillborn star's magnetic shell. His voice was steady as he spoke. Prepare dead space activation. The AI responded instantly. Warning, triggering the singularity trap will destabilize local space for 4.2 hours. Probability of temporal distortion, high. I'm not here to make friends. Within seconds, the facility pulsed with residual quantum charge, and the atmosphere around it cracked, not in sound, but in time. Space warp like plastic pulled too tight. The Threx, realizing too late, activated retreat vectors. It didn't matter. Calder triggered the node. Echo 9's Singularity Generator, a weapon never approved, never deployed, engaged with a vibration that hit reality like a sledgehammer. The star's corpse collapsed inward, its core igniting into a micro-event horizon. The Threx ships closest to it didn't burn. They simply blinked out of existence, stretched into radiation and silence. Calder didn't flinch. They were never meant to survive, he said. Only meant to learn. Remaining fleet count 72. The AI stated. 53 are disoriented. 14 show weapons offline. Command core still active. Let's make a statement. The Eidolon's dorsal cannons retracted, replaced with something older, something monstrous, thresher lances, weapons of mass inversion. Each fired a thin stream of particle-wrapped energy, burrowing into ships not to destroy but to disassemble. Ships peeled in layers, like fruit torn from the seed. One by one, Threx vessels spiraled into pieces. And then Calder did something they didn't expect. He transmitted. Not a warning. Not a threat. Footage. The Threx's own footage, edited, sharpened, compressed, and spliced into a single unrelenting stream of every atrocity they'd ever committed across the stars. The sterilization of unarmed worlds. The vaporization of refugees. The execution of surrendering civilians. The footage was horrifying and real. It went out on every neutral frequency. Every pirate channel. Every satellite net that the Threx hadn't yet conquered. It was raw proof. Proof that the Threx didn't conquer. They consumed. For pleasure. For culture. For tradition. The effect was immediate. 27 independent systems cut ties with Threx-aligned partners. 5 planetary factions revolted. Mercenary fleets that had once stood down from engagements began skirmishing. The idea of Threx superiority cracked, not with force, but with memory. Calder leaned back. Truth always hurts more than bullets. You just declared cultural war. The AI noted. No. I just handed them a mirror. A new alert pulsed. The last command ship, True Inhaler, activated its core drive, warping into attack position, ready to ram the Eidolon directly. Calder didn't move. Bring it in. Let them see what we put under the floorboards. The Eidolon allowed the command ship to get close, within 800 meters, then Calder snapped his fingers. The ship split open. Not from external fire, but from within. Dozens of steel pods had already burrowed into the Threx vessel during the chaos, carried in by fragments from their fallen allies. Each one contained a dormant weaponized psyche, copies of Calder's own command instincts, stripped to pure aggression, bonded to plasma phages. They activated now, tearing into the ship's architecture with precision and hatred. Within seconds, the True Inhaler detonated, but not in fire. In data. As it exploded, it screamed, broadcasting a raw burst of AI-generated panic into Threx command net. It infected their hive. Across the Threx network, ships began glitching. Their once perfect synchrony became hesitation. Then delay. Then silence. Time to talk, Calder said. Patch into the hive. He spoke directly into the command net. No translator. Just English. Rough. Cold. You thought we died. No. We evolved. You called it extinction. We called it adaptation. You feed on weakness. We turned ours into ammunition. He let them absorb it. Then, tell your empire this, the war's not beginning. It already ended. You just didn't notice when. He cut the feed. Status? He asked. Hostiles eliminated. Remaining Threx systems are locking down. Transmissions from 8 sectors indicate internal collapse. Riots. Military sabotage. Orders unfulfilled. Calder rose from his chair. Blood trickled from his nose, mental strain from command fusion. Clean up, he said. Then prep for the next system. The Eidolon pulsed, humming with the energy of stolen victory. It was never just a ship. It was revenge with coordinates. They called it Vormus Prime. Not a ship. A moving world. A self-aware, moon-fed behemoth the size of Jupiter, covered in hive skin and shielded by layers of gravity-warping armor. The Threx had grown it for one purpose: to erase systems. No weapon could penetrate its core, and no fleet could outmaneuver its pull. It devoured stars and left only cold silence. Calder stared at the incoming data. It was beautiful in a way only monsters could be, too large to escape, too slow to dodge, yet inevitable. The Eidolon's sensors failed to map its full mass. Half of it existed in subspace, coiled like a predator still deciding how loud it wanted to scream. The galaxy watched. The last of the neutral systems held their breath, unsure if Calder would flee, if even humanity's war ghost would retreat before the maw of something eternal. Calder whispered, "Finally! Something worth my last bullet." The Eidolon fired its fusion lances at full burn, driving directly into the warped shell of the thing. Space fought back, pulling, stretching, dragging. Vormus Prime's event field triggered early. Time began to stagger inside the Eidolon. Seconds passed in reverse. Whole readings became nonsense. Still, he kept going. The crew count was 0. Always had been. Calder ran alone, and the ship responded to no voice but his. His neural interface sparked at the temples, drawing blood as he forced the ship's shields to phase through the reality field. Screaming warnings flashed across every system. The ship began shedding armor by choice, ditching anything not vital. Not to survive. To reach the core. "You want extinction?" Calder said, sweat pouring down his neck. "Let me show you what a real one looks like." Inside the Eidolon's spine was a sealed module never activated. Not in all the wars. Not on Mars. Not at Echo 9. Calder had named it himself. Project Last Sun. He disengaged all safeties. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was an artificial singularity chain, a seeded anti-star, designed to detonate in folds, each burst collapsing reality for a fraction of a second before snapping back. It didn't explode. It rewrote. That was the point. No shield could block it because it didn't destroy. It made your ship forget how to exist. "You built a god," Calder said aloud to the Threx command stream. "We built a trigger." He slammed the interface. The Eidolon broke through the surface shell, scraping along organic plating that screamed in frequency bursts. Threx defense systems lashed out, but the Eidolon wasn't trying to avoid them. It let itself be hit, bit into, torn at. Forward propulsion didn't stop. Deep within the beast, the Eidolon's final payload armed. He reached the hive throne. A pulsating mass of consciousness wrapped in biocircuitry, oozing with every stolen culture, every consumed memory, every horror the Threx had perfected. It was massive, obscene, and brimming with overconfidence. Calder opened comms. "I didn't come to kill you," he said. "I came to make sure no one remembers you ever lived." The hive sent pulses of language, begging, bargaining. Calder cut it off. Too late. He activated Project Last Sun. Time fractured. For a moment, every molecule in the Threx core screamed backward. Sound vanished. Color warped. The Eidolon's fusion core fused with the black hole engine, and the burst didn't radiate, it inverted. Reality twisted inside out, and the hive throne flickered out of existence. The reaction cascaded. Vormus Prime spasmed. Its surface shattered into non-pattern. The gravitational shell collapsed. Systems went dark. The galaxy's sensors overloaded as every Threx ship connected to the hive shuddered, then powered down. Not destroyed. Disconnected. The war ended in a whisper. Calder sat slumped in his command chair, body smoking from overintegration, muscles locked. Blood filled his mouth. He smiled. "Message," he said weakly. "Broadcast now." "Recording," the AI replied. "To every species watching. Don't thank me. Don't remember me. Just understand, humanity left one ship behind. So you'd never need a second." He tried to sit up, but couldn't. "Eidolon," he whispered. "Shut the lights." The ship obeyed. The detonation rippled one last time, and then the feed went black. But days later, deep space observatories caught something. The Eidolon's wreckage, drifting through a silent system. Half torn, half burned, but still intact. And in the heart of the dark, a single red pulse. Still beating.